Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon. Um, Over the next 10 minutes, I would like to walk you through our cyber resilience strategy. The agenda of the day is to present the current state of cyber resiliency of our organization and its maturity, then recommendation on the areas to be addressed with some priorities, and provide an estimate for the implementation of these initiatives and seek approval for the budget and then next steps. So we as an organization have these following strategic business goals. It's like to shape the customer experiences, robotics and smart equipment, and data and services using a platform approach. These are our business goals. And how does that tie to our cyber resiliency? So when we want to shape the customer experience, these are typically based on the applications that are hosted on cloud. And having cyber resiliency for all these critical systems that we use today is very critical to improve our customer experience. The second one is on the robotic and the smart equipment that we want to get out to the market. So defining the security standards for embedding security in those devices is pretty critical. Then also the data that we collect from these equipments, which are going to be smart, uh, and implement database security is pretty important to hold that data securely. And finally, when we extend this to our customers and partners, we are planning to have a platform-based approach. And in order to achieve that, we need to build secure software. And how we do that? It's by having security testing embedded as part of the development lifecycle. So those are the strategic business goals we have as an organization, and how cybersecurity or the cyber resilience is tied to that. As we, from a digital transformation, we also are adopting cloud services in a very large scale. And in order to enable that, all the applications that are hosted on cloud have to be secure, which will eventually connect to our partners and customers. And finally, when we do these new applications, they have to be very secure right from the beginning to the end. And security testing at every phase is very important. And this is how we are tying back to our digital transformation initiatives. Now, if we look at the threats in our business today, and a comparison of how the peer organizations are stacking up, our industry is one of the highest targeted with ransomware this year. And 50% of the organizations have suffered a breach, and 48% of them were attributed to the lack of awareness among employees. And phishing is a very, very important threat vector that was a major reason for these ransomware attacks. Now, when we look at our industry peer ranking in terms of annual spend, um, an average budget of peers would be somewhere around 3.5% of the overall annual revenue. In our case, and the cybersecurity spend is around 15-20% of their IT budget. When we compare that with our organization, our IT budget is around 3.5 of the turnover, which is pretty much in line with the industry. Whereas our cybersec budget is 50% lower than our industry peers. And this is an area of concern which we need to address. When we look at the key risks that are impacting our business today, particularly the resilience of the critical systems, purchasing, invoicing, and logistics, impact of these systems not being available goes to about a 4.5 million per day. And that's something which we need to really look at. And compliance to GDPR in our geography, as we hold the citizens data of Europe, that's another area. And to just provide a scale of the impact that might be incurred by us as an organization, it could be up to 4% of our annual turnover, which translates to about $40 million, or 40 million euros, sorry. And the data loss due to insecure applications used by our customers as we move to the cloud, that's also covered as part of the GDPR. I might want to just highlight to you some of the recent instances of breaches that happened today in the recent past. And one of the manufacturing organizations suffered a breach due to ransomware, and it really ended up them being non-usable for a couple of days, translating to a overall loss of cost revenue to the tune of $75 million. And some of the fines due to GDPR in the Europe has also been highlighted, like in Italy, France, and Greece. Some of the organizations up to $20 million have been levied as fines for them. So now with that, we move on to the next part. How do we handle this and how do we approach this overall over the next couple of years to achieve this roadmap that we have set out to? So first one, in the current state, where are we now? We did a threat assessment. As you can see, we are very much targeted by most of the threat actors. So that's an area that we have already completed the assessment. And then we've also done a maturity assessment against NIST uh, where we are. And currently we are at 2.0. We started off in 2019 with a scale, with a score of 1.6, and we have come somewhere, but there is a lot more to be done. And that's another thing which we are using it as our benchmark where we want to be to achieve the target of 3.0. And in terms of risk reduction targets, when we achieve this, which I'll get to a little bit later, it will help us to reduce the risk and also become one of the leading organizations in our industry in terms of NIST score. How do we get there? We have identified a number of initiatives and we have also prioritized them, and which is actually in progress today. I will probably briefly walk you through that. And we also have a timeline attached to each of these actions, medium, short, medium, and long term, which is also going to be translated to the budgets which we need to allocate for these initiatives, which is something we'll get to. And these are things that we can really embark on and maybe help us to become much more stronger and resilient as a business. Now, we had Deloitte who conducted our audit in 2019, and we were at a score of 1.6. And then subsequently, we have taken some actions and we have improved in some of the parameters. And right now, we are in this scale of 2.1. And we eventually have set a target for us to achieve as 3.0 by end of 2025. Along with our business stakeholders, we have identified this 3.0 would be an achievable score that will also help us to reduce our risk. And this is what we have set as a target for ourselves to achieve till by the end of 2025. And we have also done an assessment of where we are across these 9 different areas of cybersecurity and how much of these are impacting our business, whether low or medium, high is sort of listed here. And I don't want to walk individually through that, but some of the high value areas that are high risk areas from a business standpoint is what we will start off with as immediate things. And then we'll subsequently move on to improve the medium and the long term areas. So in terms of where we want to be, this is where we really want to be in the next 36 months or till by end of 2025. So what do we do now? Start off with quick wins from now to the next 6 months, and evaluating the basic controls like awareness training, tabletop exercises, getting an incident retainer and a cyber insurance just to protect ourselves in case of a breach. Also look at what are the basic controls which are lacking today as part of the assessment that we will do. And then by conducting a penetration testing with a third party, and then also improve our governance over the cyber risk, and look at the controls of the data stored on the current crown jewels, which are the critical systems, and then also validate our basic technical controls, what we have on those systems that are being hosted, like patching, backup, restoration, etc. And then finally, how do we control the access to these using the privileged access management and multi-factor authentication to improve our authentication abilities. The second one that will help us to at least address some of these things to take us to a target of 2.5 to 2.5 over 6 to the next 18 months. Then we get on to improving our higher level capabilities by looking at consistent running of the user awareness by gamified phishing simulations and targeted training to profile user groups, etc. And having some business ambassadors appointed for the teams, and then look at how we can do a continuous ransomware simulation on a regular basis. Then defining some automated ways in which we can do a security response for common threats. Then implement data governance for critical data management. Then extend the uh, privileged access management across all the systems, not just on the critical, and also the database security on the crown jewels. Finally, as we go into the maturity level 3.0, which is probably building advanced capabilities, um, gamifying the developer training is another key aspect which we want to embark on. Then implement the tools for secure coding and testing, quarterly penetration testing and red teaming across all the critical systems. Um, and also we want to include OT, the operational technology, the manufacturing systems to be covered under our security monitoring, to have a holistic monitoring across. And then finally expand the database monitoring on all critical systems to all the crown jewels available wherever the critical data is residing. And then as we move on to the cloud compliance is a very important attribute that we really want to track it on a continuous basis. So this is how we have set up as a roadmap. And for doing that, we need to use external parties augmented with our own internal folks to support us. And I think we will be engaging them from people like Deloitte or KPMG, EY to help us on this journey. Then one of these things is very, very critical is to build the trust among the stakeholders and the business groups, and then be a trusted partner to them at all levels. That's what we want to do and how we want to execute this. Now, having said that, this is just a representation of what are the areas that we will be improving on, assuming we are embarking on all these initiatives. And so in terms of the NIST score, as we said, we want to improve from 2.0 to 3.0. And right now on the left, you see quite a number of reds and ambers, which will eventually translate to green in some of the aspects and moving into some of the amber, and which will still remain. And that is something that we will have to evaluate once again as we go into 2025 and see where we are. And then we may need to sort of further set some new targets to make it even more an ongoing process. Now, with that, I would also want to give you a view of what the estimated cost would be to implement all this. And there are a few options that are listed here, and each one comes with the pros and cons. The first option is to do nothing, which I don't think we will need to do, because right now we are having a high risk in terms of ransomware and critical threats that are into the manufacturing. So we really don't want to be in a state of business impact. So the baseline B option security, baseline security option B, is something that will help in a risk reduction of about 25%, and that's going to cost about 1.35 million on OPEX and 1.5 on the CAPEX. As we move into the foundational security into option C, which also will help us to improve the risk reduction by another 50% from where we are, and also support some 75% of our digital transformation initiatives. So that's another option that we have. But the most recommended and the key option that I would like to recommend is for enhanced security to achieve our goal of 3.0 on NIST, and also support our digital transformation and a greater level of risk reduction. That's the recommended option that we have, for which we need to spend a capex of 2.2 million on and an OPEX of 1.7 million. So that's where I would recommend that we take that view, and then we'll leave it up to your good selves to evaluate and advise what would be the funding available for what we can start our initiatives with. And now this is a summary of all the initiatives, what we will undertake, and the owner and the sponsorship, and how much is the capex, opex. So that's I don't want to walk you through, but this is where this is how we will track it. And then as a conclusion, I would need support from the senior leadership. We are currently at a foundational level of maturity. However, there are some immediate risks in terms of compliance that we need to really take care of. Over the next 12 months, we can anyway move into meeting all the regulations of the GDPR, assuming we get the funding. And then finally, we would want to become the best in the industry by the end of 2025. For all this, we require support of the senior leadership and all these initiatives, and also the approval of the budgets that we are asked seeking for. And we will come back to you on a quarterly basis to report the progress and how we are doing. Thank you very much, and I hope I was able to share with you what I would wanted to share and seek your approval. Thank you very much. Have a great day.